The purpose of learning. Are you interested in trying to find out what is learning? You go to school to learn, don't you? And what is learning? Have you ever thought about it? How do you learn? Why do you learn? And what is it that you are learning? What is the meaning and the deeper significance of learning? You have to learn to read and write, to study various objects, and also to acquire a technique to prepare yourself for a profession by which to earn a livelihood. We mean all of that when we talk about learning. And then most of us stop there. As soon as we pass certain examinations and have a job, profession, we seem to forget all about learning. But is there an end to learning? We say that learning from books and learning from experience are two different things. And are they? From books, we learn what other people have written about sciences, for example, then we make our own experiments and continue to learn through those experiments. And we also learn through experience, at least that is what we say. But after all, to fathom the extraordinary depths of life, to find out what God or truth is, there must be freedom. Have you thought about what experience is? It is the feeling in response to a challenge, is it not? To respond to a challenge is experience. And do you learn through experience? When you respond to a challenge, to a stimulus, your response is based on your conditioning, on the education you have received, on your cultural, religious, social, and economic background. You respond to a challenge conditioned by your background as a Hindu, a Christian, a communist, or whatever you are. If you do not break away from your background, your response to any challenge only strengthens or modifies that background. Hence, you are really never free to explore, to discover, to understand what is truth, what is God. So, experience does not free the mind, and learning through experience is only a process of forming new patterns based on one's old conditioning. I think it is very important to understand this because as we grow older, we get more and more entrenched in our experience, hoping thereby to learn. But what we learn is dictated by the background, which means that through the experience by which we learn, there is never freedom but only the modification of conditioning. Now, what is learning? You begin by learning how to read and write, how to sit quietly, how to obey or not to obey. You learn the history of this or that country. You learn languages which are necessary for communication. You learn how to earn a livelihood, how to enrich the fields, and so on. But is there a state of learning in which the mind is free of the background? A state in which there is no search? Do you understand the question? What we call learning is the continuous process of adjusting, resisting, subjugating. We learn either to avoid or to gain something. Now, is there a state in which the mind is not the instrument of learning but of being? Do you see the difference? As long as we are acquiring, getting, avoiding, the mind must learn. And in such learning, there is always a great deal of tension, resistance. To learn, you must concentrate. Must you not? And what is concentration? Have you ever noticed what happens when you concentrate on something? When you are required to study a book which you don't want to study, or even if you do want to study, you have to resist and put aside other things. You resist the inclination to look out of the window or to talk to somebody in order to concentrate. So, in concentration, there is always effort. Is there not? In concentration, there is a motive, an incentive, an effort to learn in order to acquire something. And our life is a series of such efforts, a state of tension in which we are trying to learn. But if there is no tension at all, no acquiring, no laying up of knowledge, is not the mind then capable of learning much more deeply and swiftly? Then it becomes an instrument of inquiry to find out what is truth, what is beauty, what is God, which means really that it does not submit to any authority, whether it be the authority of knowledge or society, of religion, culture, or conditioning. You see, it is only when the mind is free from the burden of knowledge that it can find out what is true. And in the process of finding out, there is no accumulation. Is there? The moment you begin to accumulate what you have experienced or learned, it becomes an anchorage which holds your mind and prevents it from going further. In the process of inquiry, the mind sheds from day to day what it has learned so that it is always fresh, uncontaminated by yesterday's experience. Truth is living, it is not static, and the mind that would discover truth must also be living, not burdened with knowledge or experience. Then only there is a state in which truth can come into being. All this may be difficult in the verbal sense, but the meaning is not difficult if you apply your mind to it. To inquire into the deeper things of life, the mind must be free. But the moment you learn and make that learning the basis of further inquiry, your mind is not free and you are no longer inquiring.